Hey guys, Michael here. It's March 3rd, 2009, and Apple made a splash this morning, updating pretty much their entire desktop line and a few other things. So what actually happened? Well, silently, quiet bump, they bumped up the specs on the 15-inch MacBook Pro. We all know that the 17-inch high-end model recently started shipping, and they had two SKUs of their 15-inch model. Well, that middle model, that upper 15-inch model, actually got updated from a 2.4 gigahertz CPU to a 2.66 gigahertz CPU, Core 2 Duo, and that has the ability, you have the option then to go just like the 17-inch and upgrade to a 2.93 gigahertz Core 2 Duo. So if you want that extra about 300 gigahertz or whatever speed bump, you can go ahead and do that. But it's nice to see a nice quiet bump of the MacBook Pro line. What they also did was change the keyboard a little bit. Everyone knows that this is what the wired keyboard looks like. There's no number pad over here. Well, the wired version had that number pad, but now standard with iMacs is what they're telling me now, that it'll be their new keyboard, which will be like this, but with a wire and a USB port on both sides. Will be shipping standard with the iMacs. For free of charge, you'll be able to substitute in the standard wired keyboard with the number pad. But if you're buying from a third-party reseller, you're probably not going to have that many options, which is kind of a downside. I wish that Apple, if anything, released a wireless version with a number pad. I mean, this is a more compact design, but the number pad is a useful thing to have, particularly if it's for a desktop. So I think that was kind of a whatever thing. Some people will like it, some people don't. I just wish I like the number pad, okay? I mean, I have a laptop, but on my keyboard, I want that dedicated number pad, particularly if I'm on a desktop. So also what they did was, and this was evident by an Amazon price drop over the weekend, time capsules for the 1 terabyte were down to like $300, so you obviously knew something was coming. But with their Airport Extreme, basically what they've done is they allow you, and the time capsule, they allow you to now broadcast at the same time in the 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz band. Now, what this means is wireless and the spec, if you actually look at it, is made for the 5 gigahertz band. A lot of routers, particularly mine, are using that 2.4 gigahertz band for wireless N, but N was originally designed for the 5 gigahertz band, and wireless A, 802.11a, I'm sure you've heard of, is also designed for that 802.11 or for that 5 gigahertz band. So some devices that you have will prefer the 5 gigahertz band. If you have something that can connect to it, that's probably better because there's less devices on there. But the issue was with previous versions of the Airport, you weren't able to have concurrent connections and concurrent broadcasting in both those bands. And now that's brought to the time capsule and the Airport Extreme. Pricing is still the same. The Airport's still $179, and for the 500 gigabyte time capsule, that's still $300, and $500 for the 1 terabyte. This thing still supports 500 users simultaneously, and what's actually really nice is they're actually giving you they're actually allowing you to create a limited network, a limited wireless network for guests, so they can still connect to the network over your, wireless router, but they can't access your home network's media files or stuff that you have on your local network, so just some protection. So they can still access the internet, but they can't access your files, which is nice. Now the Mac Mini, there was a lot of speculation about this, and pretty much all the rumors and all the early video that we saw, it was true. It now has five USB ports along the back, and a FireWire 800, I believe, and it also has the NVIDIA GeForce 9400M. That's an upgrade over the Intel integrated. So it's still integrated graphics, but it's actually much nicer. But for $599, you're going to get 1 gig of RAM, a 120 gig hard drive, and that $799 price will give you 2 gigs of RAM and a 320 gigabyte hard drive, and both have 8-speed super drives. Please don't say 8X. I hate when people say that. It's one of my pet peeves. Or like Mac OS X. No, OS 10. 8 times, not 8X. Just something that irritates me a little bit. But really, it's kind of a ripoff for the $800 price point. You're not really getting that much over the other one. So if you're looking at an iMac, or a Mac Mini rather, getting a little ahead of myself, I would suggest that $599 price point for you. And again, that has the new 9400M graphics card, 2 GHz Core 2 Duo processor, mini DisplayPort DVI plugs. Now, the Mac Pro. Apple actually put in the Core i Nehalem chips. A lot of people don't really know what this is, and they talk about it, and they don't really know what it is. But basically, it's just the next iteration of Core 2 Duo, just a new type. It's faster, and it's just pretty much, faster and more efficient than the current Core 2 Duo chips that are on the market. So Nehalem was good. I was really looking for them to refresh more of their things with Nehalem Core i7 chips. They didn't, but they did with the Mac Pro. So they actually have 2 price points now. For $24.99, you get quad-core 2.66 gigahertz Nehalem processor, 3 gigs of RAM, because now you're in that tri-RAM module for best efficiency, whereas with DDR2, you wanted to get matching pairs. Now you want 3 pairs with this new architecture. So 3 gigs of RAM, a 640 gig hard drive, and an 8-speed double-layer super drive. Pretty nice 8-speed or 18-speed. They haven't had that before. And also the NVIDIA GeForce GT 120 with 512 megabytes of RAM. If you want to step it up to the $3,300 price range, losing my words, you're back up to 8-core with 2 Nehalem quad-core Xeon chips. That's Xeon chips. You get 6 1-gig sticks of RAM for that tri-channel that I was talking about before. Same 640 gig hard drive, still an 8-speed double-layer super drive, and that same NVIDIA GeForce GT 120 with 512 megabytes of RAM. But the biggest news, I guess you could say, is the new iMacs. The iMacs are still at the same price point, so $1,199, $1,500, $1,800, and $2,200 respectively. But that $1,500 price range is now a 24-inch display, which is pretty sweet. So pretty much what has changed here? Well, now it's a little bit of a speed bump, but really it's because the 24 inches is down to that $1,500 price range. With the 20-inch price range, with the 20-inch, you're going to get 2 gigs of RAM, 2.66 gigahertz Intel Core 2 Duo, not Nehalem. I was really one of the biggest downsides is that it wasn't Core i7 Nehalem chips with a quad-core option in the iMacs. Looking at it in hindsight, we're probably not going to see quad-core iMacs for a while. Apple probably wants to save that premium quad-core octa-core for their Mac Pros, but I just think that I would have wanted quad-core in here. But anyway, for $1,200, you're going to get 2.66 Core 2 Duo, 2 gigs of RAM, 320 gig hard drive, an 8-speed super drive, and the integrated NVIDIA GeForce 9400M graphics. And that's the same if you bump up to that $1,500 price range. You're still going to get that integrated graphics, the same 8-speed super drive, a 640 gig hard drive, so that's pretty large just to throw in there, 4 gigs of RAM, and that same 2.66 gigahertz Core 2 Duo. So I'm actually was considering going after this $1,500 price range as the machine that I wanted to purchase, but I'm a little bit skeptical about getting another integrated graphics machine up to that $1,800 price range, which will give me a faster CPU and a 2.93 gigahertz Core 2 Duo, 4 gigs of RAM the same, still a 640 gig hard drive, still an 8-speed double-layer super drive, but now you're going to get the NVIDIA GeForce GT 120 with 256 megabytes of dedicated RAM. So with Apple, they really, if you want that extra oomph, if you will, they're really going to charge you for it, particularly because there's not much of a difference between any of these computers in their lineups. There's just a little incremental things, and before you know it, when you get a machine that you're liking, it's way too expensive. Because $1,800, I'm not sure if that's worth the upgrade from the $1,500. But then again, it's not like I can just go swapping in, new graphics cards. So it's just something to consider. But I am looking at one of these iMacs, and ultimately we'll have something for you, well, for us. And just to round it out, for $2,200, 24-inch, 3.06 gigahertz Core 2 Duo, 4 gigs of RAM, a terabyte hard drive. Still an 8-speed double-layer super drive, but the NVIDIA GeForce GT 130 with 512 megabytes of RAM. So that's pretty much it for this event that happened on March 3rd. But anyway, you can find more of my content at youtube.com/therevived1 and check out my blog at michaelsherlock.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/blue42richman. Take care, guys. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. Peace.